welcome to the Unlock Your Blocks podcast. My name is Elyssa Smith, and today, can I just help you with your to-do list? Can I help you with the overwhelm that you feel when you first think about it or look at it in the morning? That is what today is all about. I know that you've experienced this if you have been feeling shut down or burned out, or you're feeling like this lack of productivity when you think about all the things that you have to do. So today we're going to talk about how to tackle your to-do list for the minimum overwhelm and maximum productivity. We've all had that moment where your eyes pop open in the morning and you immediately start to scan your day for what you have to do, right? So whether you actually have your to-do list on paper or in your phone or just floating aimlessly around in your mind, we can all relate to that feeling of like I don't want to do this. I don't want to do any of this. And why do I have to be working so hard? And it's such a trending thing now to be like, I'm all done adulting. I just want a cat for today. I would like to be a cat, just lay around, kick things off of shelves, be fed. I don't want to do my adulting today. But I'm going to give you a few tips that are going to absolutely help you break down that to-do list in a way that makes your burden so much lighter and makes it so much more doable. And I want to make sure too that when you are getting stuff done, that you're celebrating that so that your system does not see productivity as a threat or as leading to burnout. So I want to just talk really quickly about what this overwhelm is. If you have to-do list overwhelm, that means that you are usually experiencing a freeze survival response. Now, in the sympathetic nervous system, which is just a fancy way to say your survival system, we have 4 different things that could be happening when you are fighting for survival. And your body doesn't really know the difference between, I just have a lot to do today, and I am being chased by a tiger and I'm going to be its lunch if I'm not really careful. So it will give you the same, I call them the 4 F's. It will give you these same 4 responses, which then lead to overwhelm, and all the different sabotages that you can experience: perfectionism, people pleasing, imposter syndrome. These 4 things in your sympathetic nervous system response or in your survival response happen no matter if you actually are facing a life or death threat or you're just facing your to-do list and you don't really want to fold the laundry today. So here are the 4 things that it will do. It will do fight, flight, which most of us are familiar with, freeze, and fawn. The freeze response, fairly self-explanatory. That's what you're experiencing when you're like, when you look at that to-do list. The fawn response is a way to please your way to safety, and it is tied into this overwhelm that we have with the tasks. Now, I'm going to explain that in just a second. So where does this come from? Where do we suddenly become adults? We wake up one day and you're an adult and you're like, I don't want to do the things on my list. I don't want to work hard. I'm all done. I'm overwhelmed. I can't really get going. So where does that come from? Why is it that when we see that to-do list, then we get flooded with this kind of paralyzing feeling of, I don't know how to get started, or I don't want to get started. When we are little, when we're kids, we figure out, our survival brain is brilliant at this. We figure out what is safe, what is not safe. And we base that on what is likely to help me get all of my needs met, or as many of my needs met as possible, and what is going to make it so that there are less of my needs met. Most of us high achieving women, raise your hand. If that's you, I'm raising mine. If you're a high achiever, that means that you probably learned to do things at a really high performance level when you were little, including navigating everyone else's expectations and trying to keep everyone else happy. So this means that you probably have perfectionistic tendencies and people-pleasing tendencies. Those are 2 of our 3 P's of the self-sabotage pack. So we have procrastination, perfectionism, and people-pleasing that usually travel in a crowd. Now, you may have 1 or 2 of those and not the others, and that's okay. And then closely aligned with those are imposter syndrome and negative self-talk. So usually most of us, if we're high achieving women, we have 1 or more of that little pack of 5 going on in us as our safety survival coping mechanisms. If you specifically deal with to-do list overwhelm that stops you from completing your list or even starting it, chances are you are strong. That's the force of perfectionism and people pleasing are strong with you. And if that's the case, you learned that you needed to do it, quote, right, and maybe even all at once in order to have your approval that you needed and to get your needs met that way. So if you learned that, no wonder you wake up and panic. I had a friend in college. We would just literally check on each other because both of us were like working two jobs and had more than one specialty, one more than one major, and like we're doing all the different stuff to extracurriculars. And we would just check in and be like, "Did you wake up and panic today, or are you okay?" I would wake up and panic every day in college. And that still would try and happen to me so much of my adulthood. It was just how my system dealt with having those high expectations and thinking that my survival is tied to whether or not I can meet those expectations, including with folding my laundry and cleaning my dishes that make it onto the to-do list, right? You may have actual evidence of this. This is where it gets really tricky. That brain programming doesn't happen by accident. It's not happenstance that that you were originally wired to please and to be perfect. If that happened, you may have actual evidence of people telling you in your childhood that you need to do better, perform higher. I refer to this sometimes. I had a new client at one point. She said, if I got a 97 on a test, then one of my parents would always say that was a 3% failure. That's so much. So many of us grew up with someone actually saying, you need to be more perfect. This is not an acceptable level of performance. So not only then do we have this level of perfection we need to attain, but we also need to please that person because chances are, if you were getting that message from someone in childhood, that was probably someone that was important in your life and someone that you needed in order to get your needs met. So keeping them happy, definite good survival choice, right? Performing perfectly, not possible. Also, good thing to shoot for if you learned that that was the best way for you to get your needs met. The other thing about having a to-do list and it overwhelming us is that it becomes this all or nothing thing. The to-do list becomes like its own entity. It becomes like this other than me thing that is all encompassing. And if I'm just looking at the 45 things on the list, how am I going to know where to start? Your inner little girl can take over at that point and be like, I'm 7 and I don't know how to do this. So there's a lot of when I work with one-to-one clients on things like this, if I notice that there's like I have a one-to-one client right now, she's been wanting to prioritize her physical health for a long time and her movement and exercise and eating, but it keeps getting pushed back. And what we figured out is that there is this young part of her that pops up when we talk about not even overhauling, because you have to go really gently and really start really small when you're changing things so that you stay within your window of tolerance. But even just changing small things for her feels very overwhelming. Like she can't handle it. It's going to be too hard. And it's because she already works, a job that has really long hours and she's already in some difficult personal circumstances. That little young part of her, that little inner girl piece, does not want to work hard on exercise and nutrition right now. So you have to figure out where is this part popping up for you that's stopping you from doing the list? Is it that young part of you that was never meant to carry the adult load? And that could be a big reason as to why you're not moving the needle in more of those areas and why you're feeling completely overwhelmed when you look at your to-do list. So, what are the issues with to-do list overwhelm? Well, the obvious things are, that overwhelm leads you into this freeze response. You can't actually get stuff done. So you might end up, when you're supposed to be working on a project that has a deadline tonight, I have a new client who's been working on a paper and we were talking in her session and it was like, okay, I need to do this project. And suddenly it seems like I really need to clean my room. But there's so much pressure with those of us who learned that our performance had to be at this untouchable standard and we needed to keep everyone else happy at the same time. There's a lot at stake. And in her case, it was like, well, if I don't do well on this paper, then this professor is going to dump me. They're not going to be on the committee that I need in order to graduate. Da, 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 da. And it was like this whole thing. They're going to lose respect for me and I'm going to end up homeless in the street. A lot of us have very extreme worst case scenarios in our minds that can pop up at any time when we are in this freeze state. Your mind will find any reason not to do something that it believes puts you in more danger. So maybe it's thinking like you're in danger of burning out, so it doesn't want you to do all these things on this to-do list. Maybe it thinks that you are going to be judged and kicked out of the herd, abandoned basically, and then you're going to be susceptible to predators. I had a client a couple years ago who came to me specifically because she was procrastinating a household project. So she had this renovation project to do and she just kept setting aside, 3 hours here, 4 hours here each week to do it. And she would just like walk in there and then turn around and go back away. And I was actually at a dinner party recently and I was talking about what I do. And my TEDx talk is about procrastination and what classifies as procrastination, which I had a solo episode on the podcast here about what's not procrastination that you might think is. And so she was telling me, this woman that I was sitting with, she was telling me, well, I had these household projects and I wanted to get it done, but every time I'd walk into the room, I would see like 6 other things that needed to happen before this project could happen. So my client that was walking in and setting this 3-hour time block aside on Saturdays and still not doing the clean out that needed to happen before the renovation could happen, what we realized is that she had this strong sense in her body that if she couldn't do it all at once, it wasn't worth even starting. And that may be part of what's going on with you with your to-do list overwhelm. Your mind may be saying, we are never going to be done. It is just going to hang over our head. And if we can't do it all right now and see our way clear to actually complete this entire list, then what's the point? So we stay in this freeze response. We stay in survival mode. And long term, even if it's just based on your to-do list stressing you out every single day, and then you get to bed and every night and it's like you didn't get those 3 things done. So you didn't check off the whole list. So now you have to start all over again and you're feeling behind again at the end of the day after you've been productive but didn't get it all done. So your mind just may be continuing to spin these stories about what does that mean about you and your value. And that will keep you in this survival mode, the all or nothing mentality, the black and white thinking, the negative self talk when you don't complete the list. Let's be honest, the list is never fully done unless you cut it short and then put a list together for tomorrow. But if you just have a brain dump list that you're working from and it's 45 different things and you're like, I will feel better when all these are checked off and it's done perfectly, no wonder you're overwhelmed, babe. Like this is going to be really, really challenging for your system to feel safe with this list if it believes that you have to do it all and do it perfectly all at once. So your body may be resisting a potential burnout. If you've been burned out before, it may say, oh, we don't want to work this hard because we're going to burn out, because maybe you don't take breaks regularly. No shade, because that's really hard to do when you have maybe even been told that we don't take breaks until we're done working. So your system may have all of these underlying beliefs that are fueling that feeling when you look at your to-do list in the morning. So here is my solution. These are the steps. These are the 5 steps that you need to take in order for this to start to remedy itself in your life. The first thing is when you notice the overwhelm, I want you to stop. Take a deep breath. Do the 3 S's. The 3 S's, my 3S framework is safety, self-care, and nurturing. Safety, self-care, and support. And self-care can be just termed as self-nurturing, anything that nurtures your 5 senses. The safety piece, let's start there. 3 deep breaths. I don't care what you're doing, where you are, you can take 3 deep breaths in less than 30 seconds. That is the start of your system feeling safe enough to tackle the to-do list, okay? The second thing, do something that nurtures your 5 senses. I make my favorite cup of tea because that hits 4 out of 5 senses and it automatically conveys care to my body. And that's what we want. The third thing is safe support. Reach out to somebody that cares about you unconditionally. This will help your system feel like you're part of the herd. You're not going to get picked off by a predator. Once you do this, once you calm, here are the 4 things you're going to do. You're going to divide your to-do list into these 4 categories, okay? The first one, and this is going to be the stuff that you want to do first, okay? So prioritizing the list is not an option as long as you're in the overwhelm and frozen. But as soon as you can calm the system, you can prioritize and make it doable, okay? Number 1, deadlines. If you have something that has to be done today, tomorrow, the next day, put those things in their own category, okay? So these are the things that have to be done by a certain time. And here's the order that they need to be done. The second is the low-hanging fruit. Which things take the least amount of effort, but will still move your needle forward? The third way that you're going to divide these things are future time savers. So once you get your deadlines taken care of and your low-hanging fruit taken care of, you're getting the most bang for your buck. Then you think about things that are going to save your sanity later. So I call these future time savers, sanity savers, whatever you like. And it's stuff like laying out your clothes for your workout tomorrow so that you don't have to make yet another decision in the middle of the day tomorrow. It's stuff like making your plan for what the meals are going to be for you and or your family tomorrow so that you can think ahead and save yourself some decision fatigue there. Then the fourth category is any possible thing you can outsource. So, in my household, this looks like letting my son listen to an audiobook so that he can clean his room and not will not resist that. He's going to be much more likely to clean his room, and so that I don't have to go in and organize every single thing if I let him listen to an audiobook, right? So his room needs to be cleaned. I outsource that to him, or there's a room in the house and I offer him commissions like, hey, do you want to listen to an audiobook and do these 4 things in the living room so that we can have our company come over this weekend? So anything you can outsource. This also goes for house cleaning, things like this. You can find reasonably priced cleaners in your area, probably, depending on where you live in the world. I did not think I'd be able to find that in my little Midwestern town, but I totally have somebody that can come by and she's reasonably priced. And, she will help out with whatever projects I have going on, whether it's, organizing or cleaning up or whatever it is, running errands. And so anything you can outsource, even if it's not that you're paying someone, even if you're asking your partner, a friend to come over and help you organize a room or help you tackle, like I have good girlfriends. We will offer just to sit with each other when we are having to do something difficult, or get on Zoom or FaceTime with somebody. Get that support going and outsource maybe parts of the jobs, or just outsource the support that you need to do the job. So, whatever you're doing, form all this support around yourself as you're doing it, and your to do list will become less about, it's this big, giant, jumbled mess of stuff I got to do, and I got to do it all at once and perfectly and please everyone around me, to let me just see if I could handle these 3 things that have a deadline today. Check, check, check. Okay, now let's take a look at the next category. So I hope this is helpful for you. It's all about staying regulated in your system so that you can use your higher level thinking to make the choices that need to be made so that you don't get decision fatigue, so that you don't stay in the freeze mode. I hope this has been really helpful for you, and I hope that you will take such good care of yourself, and I will see you here again soon.